This is Troy with Troy with a Workflow Wednesday, take 2. I tried an adventure of doing it behind the scenes and not surprising, tech problems. I don't know why my lavaliere mic wasn't working, but it wasn't. And so I'm going to try to recreate the same thing we did last time live and do it again. Today on Workflow Wednesday, one of the things we're talking about is what is a ServiceNow workflow and why does it make the world of work better? And so let me try to explain. Work is dynamic. And one of the things that means is as we go through work, it needs to go to different people, it needs to go to different teams, and different things have to happen. And those variations in work depend on what it is we're requesting, and what's happened in the system. Those things are conditions. There's logical tests that we have to do to check to see if it's actually going to work for us. And that's what a workflow is. It's a combination of having ServiceNow watch the different things and provide either a logical test, create a task, ask for an approval, or do some scripted activity. And we'll talk more about that one too. But think about work. And sometimes it's good to walk through an example. And so consider requesting a new laptop or a piece of equipment. Let's keep it generic. And so as I request a piece of equipment, the first test in that fulfillment workflow, if you will, is looking at a threshold. Let's say it's $1,000. If it's under $1,000, there's no approval. It's just we know that there's some requests that's going to be done, and that will go and get fulfilled. If it's above $1,000, maybe my manager has to approve it, or a leader above it has to approve it. And so in the workflow, there would be a test. Is the requested equipment more expensive than that threshold or not? If it is, go one route. If it is not, go another. And that decision of what comes next is if it is too much, it would go up to create an approval request for someone to review it and determine if that fulfillment should be done or not. The next step is actually going off and doing it. And for something like a piece of equipment, let's say it's stocked in a storeroom, ServiceNow would know about that, right? And it might be a task for someone to pull it from that stock room or procure it or find it and provide it to IT for configuration. And so the workflow would create that task, assign it to the group or individual to go and pull that equipment. When that's completed, the workflow again would trigger to show up and say, all right, that task's done. What's next? The next task in this scenario could be, assign it to a group in IT to pre-configure, to set it up. And so when that group is done doing that work, it'd be assigned to their queue. They'd see it, they'd do the work, make some notes. And when that's done, perhaps there's an alert come to me, let me know, hey, it's been pulled, it's configured, it's ready for you. And in our work from home days, that likely means the next step is going to someone that can package it and ship it to send it to me. And so as that's packaged and shipped, it would be sent out and that step would be done. And then there's another step where perhaps the system could be watching to recognize when a shipment was received notification or a certain number of time has passed. So follow up and say either what happened to the shipment or was it actually acknowledged that it was received? And so those actions could differ. Again, we're watching different systems and responding with conditions. The next step could be having assigned to a group that could reach out to me and say, hey, Troy, did you get your equipment? Do you know how to access it, to log in and use it? Is that working as you expected? And then when that task is done, it could close off the fulfillment for that. In that example, we can see there's a whole number of different things. I talked about there's logical tests, there's tasks to assign, there's approval requests that could go out. And then there's also times where I could go out and update a system. Sometimes that could be updating another record inside of ServiceNow. For example, the configuration management database could be updated along the way saying, hey, this asset tag, this configuration item is now assigned to Troy Pasola. You could update the location when it's shipped to know, where it's at. So each of those could be the workflow going off and updating that CI configuration item record in the system. Those types of scripted or automation responses are really called in. Oftentimes, I'll differentiate between automation, moving things from person to person, and orchestration, where a ServiceNow is going off without fingers on a keyboard and making updates to a technology. Often I'll determine that or call that orchestration instead of automation. Um, Nuance doesn't really matter. But just know that inside a workflow, it could be both. We're workflowing things where we're asking other groups, other individuals to do some work, whether that's an approval or an action. And we're asking systems to do things. We're either updating system, we're waiting for a response from a system, or going off and updating a system by actually changing some things or calling API calls or other things. That combination of things is really what makes a ServiceNow workflow. If you haven't seen my video on what is ServiceNow, check that out on the YouTube version of this. I'll put a link above and in the comments below, and on LinkedIn, I'll put it in the comments below. But again, that's it. What is a ServiceNow workflow? It's a combination of those logical tests, approvals, tasks, in scripted or technology orchestrations that can go off and make the world of work work. If you have questions on how you can get more out of ServiceNow, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you have comments or questions or other suggestions of things that I should cover on a future Workflow Wednesday, don't hesitate to send me a link. If we're not connected, send me a message request or an invite and include that in your connection request, or send me a message. I look forward to hearing from you, and catch me on the next Workflow Wednesday. Thanks. Bye-bye.